seem accurate to me at all. Oh my gosh.
I would never lie.
Holy cow, you guys know what's over?
I feel that.
The off season.
Thank God.
It's the preseason. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR podcast. Presented as always by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. With promo code DNVR whenever you sign up. Look at this, guys. A day so special, so vibey, so exciting that we just added giant Vogt to the group.
Why not? Happy to be here. Happy to be a little bit bigger for once.
It's like you took one of those mushrooms in Super Smash Bros. Just powered up big time.
Fun fact, that's just what happens when I smoke pot. I just get bigger. I just grow. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Also behind here, the man, the real MVP today was Dev in his sweater.
Look at that sweater.
Yeah, man, I laid that thing out last night.
I know you did. I knew you did.
I kept on walking by it. I'm like, yo, should I iron it again or something? Like, no. Like, what shoes do I put on with that? And I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out in the morning. Then I came late.
You did walk in late.
Classic.
Classic late arrival.
Late to media day.
It was literally, the worst part is it was 30 seconds late.
They closed the doors.
Me and Jenna, 30 seconds late. And we had to just you don't want to get in. There was another person that was late. They didn't care. They walked in. And I was like,
call them out.
No, I'm not going to call anybody
Use
out
names.
like that.
What's the name sound like? Fifth. And then over here, the man with the wind in his hair, it's Harrison.
Yeah. I only wish I could have as much swag as Dev. Like,
I'm not gonna lie.
I never will.
I'm a little surprised you didn't come suit or
suit. Have you seen me dress over the last 2 years?
Take us through this top. Is this sporty? Is this work?
It's not that interesting. Actually, I don't care about the intro to that.
Right.
Guys, media day. We have a lot to get to.
I'd
today.
say golf attire.
I said I didn't want to hear.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get to today. This show might run a little bit long. Because this was media day, and I gotta say this was my 8th media day. I think, not to brag here, 8th media day coming.
You're just saying that you're old.
I'm just saying that I am old. Not quite as. I'm not DeAndre Jordan trying to make sure everybody knows I'm not too old. No, but this was my 8th media day, and I gotta say they all have their own personality. The personality of this one for me was extreme vibes, and I mean that in the best way. I don't want to overstate. It's just media day. It doesn't mean that much. But it means something. Like, we're going to get later in the show, we're going to talk about teams that maybe didn't have the best vibes. But my big picture takeaway, before we get into Indy specifics, was the guys seem like they're very happy. They feel like they're in a very good place for day number one.
Yeah, I think that was like my big takeaway as well. Is just people are loose, a lot more loose than they have been in the past. Every single year you try to, decipher what it means to have those championship like aspirations and things like that. But these guys seem like comfortable. It seems like there's no pressure on them this year, like I've seen in the past. Like they're just like, hey, this is the team. They feel a lot more close, and I just feel like they're just going to be loose this year. Everybody seems super close with one another.
Yeah. It started from something Michael Malone said really early on in his remarks. He said that last September was the worst September since he's been in Denver in terms of guys just being in the gym.
Do you remember
being
that?
in the facility?
Do you remember that being a thing? Because I don't remember him saying that.
At the time.
At the time.
The time, no, I don't remember it.
That's what I mean is that a lot of like, I was kind of surprised to hear that because I don't remember that being the case, and it was never a topic of conversation. So it kind of shows you just how much can be behind the scenes on those types of things.
He said that and then followed up later and said, like, we've pretty much had the whole team here. Right. Like the last month or so, just scrimmaging, practicing, playing. And you could just see that kind of carry over to how everybody talked today. Everybody's just happy to be here. Everybody's excited. Everybody's just vibing out. There's a great chemistry with this group right now. You felt that today. The spirit just could not be higher. And it got me going. Like, it got me really excited too.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of what the team was missing last year too. They got through that season admirably. It did not look like a season full of joy. Right. And I think that component really matters. It can be overstated, but you can come in over serious and tension can build early and you can burn out early. But I think there's an element of when you're actively enjoying the work you're putting in and you're seeing those results and you're having fun, I think it just makes it easier to go to work every day. And obviously it was palpable today.
Yeah. I want to my first note here for Michael Malone, and I'd actually heard this last week. He was in a car accident. Apparently he and Ryan Bowen had got a hit and run And I heard it is actually kind of bad, kind of shook him up a little bit. So he brought that out. I kind of figured he would bring it up, but it was classic Malone to start this with. It was like, first question, how was your summer? Well, I was hit by a car yesterday. Like, wow, all right.
Other than that, though.
So honestly, though, him and Ryan Bowen in the car together apparently get hit. It is a little bit of a story, like a little micro story. Like, wow, what a weird thing. But Michael Malone, as we all expected, I thought, tried to set a tone. We knew he was going to come in and do that. And he put a bunch of numbers out. I don't know if we have all of them written down. I'll have to go back and transcribe. We just came over from Ball Arena. But he says, you can't be 15th in defensive rating and be serious about winning a title. And it's not just about the new players. They want to get this. And then here's the most important part, I thought, Vogt. He put out a number. 5th. He wants them to be a top 5 defense. We kept talking, could they be a top 10 defense this year? He said top 5.
He sure did. And look, that's who was it later? Was it Jamal that
I
said
think it was Yoke. Oh, yeah, it was Jamal.
Everybody wants to be a top 5 defense. But listen, I think Malone always tries to set that bar high. And it only makes sense to set it higher with, obviously, the defensive personnel, which it's very clear Malone loved those decisions moving in that direction. But also, again, that word of burnout, like last season was 6th gear just to keep your head above water. And I think for the guys returning, they're returning to a different equation, right? And so everyone should have the capacity, the extra room to give defensively, to commit to that, because things should be a little bit easier on the other end. So I'm obviously not surprised to hear Malone say that, but I think this is the first year where you hear it and it feels, I don't want to say on the table, but not like a pipe dream. In the past, when he said stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, maybe for a month, we'll see. But I think this group has what it takes to be, at least top 7, top 8.
I got mixed messages in terms of that, because I kind of felt like Jamal Murray was almost making it sound like that's a pipe dream of like.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know. I think that'll be an interesting story. Look, the thing to know about pre-camp is that there have been guys that have been around, including Jamal, but it doesn't really start until today. Today's the first day. As Michael Malone always begins this. They fly to San Diego right now. They're probably already in the air or taking off now. Malone has a dinner, and he speaks, and players will speak, and that's the official start of the season. That's where the buzzwords that they have thought of and things like top 5 defense, that's the first time that's communicated to the team en masse. And so it was interesting to me that Michael Malone was like top 5. This is a target. We're going to go for this. And then some of the players were kind of like,
we'll see.
Yeah, but I feel like you have to do that as the coach. Like that should be the mindset is defense wins championships. And the whole emphasis and idea of this year is to bring back Jamal Murray, bring back a Michael Porter Jr. with already Jokic being the MVP. So you already know, and you've heard it a lot of times, that the offense is going to work itself out. But now they have to focus on the defense. And I feel like that's what they did with their new acquisitions, with what they did in the offseason and bringing in those type of guys with that type of mantra. And I feel like that's where Calvin Booth is, hitting for the offseason. So, you have to have it on both sides where you're going to talk about, defense the entire time. But, the guys know. They're like, hey, we're going to be fine regardless. Let's just get to playing basketball. So it made sense for Jamal to be the guy.
But you know what's funny, though, is at the end, unprompted, he made reference to the fact that Nathaniel Hackett is his neighbor. And he said, how about that Broncos game? And, look, this is classic Malone. Everything he says has a little purpose to it. And one of the things he's saying is what a game, what a defense last night. Now, this game, if you don't follow the Broncos, they won 11-10, which in football would be like winning a basketball game 65-68. It's like the lowest scoring you could possibly have. Inept offenses. And what's funny to me, if you follow this, if you follow the NFL and you follow the Broncos, after the game, the media was like, what crap, this game, they won, but how terrible. But the reports out of that locker room were that the Broncos were through the moon or over the moon, through the roof. The vibes were incredible in the Broncos locker room. And you think, you guys had 11 points, you eked out a win against this team. What is this? And this was, I think, kind of what Malone is joking but also being serious about is when you can win with defense, it feels extra good. Because you just know your offense is going to come along.
Well, especially with this team, yeah.
The Broncos, you mean?
No, the Nuggets.
But I think there's a point. I'm making the point here of you can win 130, 120 for a month straight. But when you beat a team, when you had a horrible offensive night, there's an extra little bit of, hey, we feel like we're actually good.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think what Malone said is also just a continuation of the theme that he put into the ether after last season. He's been on this from last playoffs into the offseason and even now, we need to get better defensively. And that was the focus of most of their offseason acquisitions. KCP, Bruce Brown.
Right.
They think DeAndre Jordan's going to help protect the rim. They were the worst defense at the rim last year historically.
Yeah. I don't. That's the stat I didn't have it.
It was something like in the last 20 years, nobody's been worse defending the rim than the Nuggets were last year. Opponent shot like 70+% at the rim against them. So everything has kind of been put into motion this offseason to address the defense. And that theme continued today.
Another theme to me that's very important is the idea of veterans. This is the most veteran team, I think, probably the most veteran team of this era. Now, part of this is just because, like, Yoke's a veteran now. He's been along. So a lot of the guys that haven't... But also, it was important because Malone made reference to this. They had their conditioning test earlier this week. Immediately after that, they all went over to Aaron Gordon's house. This was all over the internet, and played in his warehouse/house that has a basketball court. And then after that, they went and played paintball, and Michael Malone said, these aren't things that have been happening in the past. And he didn't say any one person. But we get the sense from today, Ish Smith, extremely charismatic. Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan, we'll talk about them later. To me, the stars of the show today. Bruce Brown, even KCP. Like, there just seems to be a lot of guys that understand the ebbs and flows of an 82-game season and are like, hey, this is the point of the year where we go play paintball and do some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's big. When we all started, everybody on this team was talking about how this was the youngest team in the NBA and how everybody was just completely different and going through just learning how to be in the league. Like you talked about, Jokic, Jamal, like the core, they're all vets. They're older guys. There's not many young guys on the team, and that's why it's like a breath of fresh air when you get it. But having those guys that have been there, bringing in an Ish Smith who's been on every single team in the league, it feels like, bringing in a DeAndre Jordan who's been around the block, and a Jeff Green, those are not just guys that are just going to be molding young guys. They're also still playing. They're also, a big part of the team. So having guys that, can teach you still small things that you need to learn, but also mix it in with playing and stuff. That's just, I feel like, what the difference is.
But that, to me, the playing, the paintball and that kind of stuff is its own thing. Like, it's not even, it's not as if it's a side dish. It's like, it's actually one of the main courses of an NBA season. And here's what I think is interesting. One of the things I always come back to is Richard Jefferson. He was one of the vets at one point in time, talking about how boring this team was. And it was like the most boring team he'd ever been on. Two things. One, I think you're seeing the difference between a Richard Jefferson type leadership. And I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, just saying it maybe wasn't the right veteran for this team. I don't know. But secondly, this team doesn't seem boring anymore. This actually seems the least boring team of the Nuggets of the Jokic era.
That's a great take. Look, a lot of it is these new guys. I mean, Ish Smith, I did not know until I talked to him today.
Love him.
What a treat.
I know.
What a treat to talk to Ish Smith.
Great.
Great perspective, great energy.
Yeah.
And I really think there is something to the guys that have figured out how to survive in the not be stars, but survive for a long time. They're gonna have a valuable perspective on the ebbs and flows of the season. But Ish has personality. DeAndre has personality. He brought personality out of Jeff Green that I hadn't seen yet. So I think that those guys being friends helps a lot. But there was a kind of almost schoolboy first day of school, right? Making trouble kind of in a good way from this group where, look, some of the guys in the past, no matter how we feel about them, Gary Harris, Jeremy Grant, quiet fellas.
Even Paul Millsap.
Millsap.
There have been a lot of guys that have been boring in the ways that we're talking about these veterans being fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, but even to go on to that with the Richard Jefferson thing, I think they were boring at the time. Like, I think that if you look at if you look at the new guys that are bringing it, that's who's bringing in the fresh air. That's who's doing those things. Like Paul Millsap was the one that brought everybody over and put them in his facility. Now it's Aaron Gordon. We're seeing a lot more of Bones Hyland. He's online. Like, we don't see many other guys online. Ish Smith seems to have his own personality, and DeAndre Jordan, like, those are new guys. So maybe there's something to just bringing in guys that have that type of, characteristics or personality where they're a lot more open, and it's now getting other guys to be a bit more open, or at least the idea that they can be more open and it's still fun. So I think that is the Richard Jefferson wasn't wrong for saying that.
No, he wasn't
now
wrong.
Starting to
but
change.
You know what else I don't think he did was have people over to his warehouse
Yeah.
and take
Well,
a paint
that's-
bunny.
exactly.
And that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying is I think again, I don't know this, but I think there was a little bit of a like, man, this kind of is a bummer. I thought it was going to be more fun versus these guys that are like, we're going to make this fun. And there are more fun personalities to this or that. We got to keep it moving. There's so much, guys, though. I got to go move really quick here. Another thing that I thought was really interesting, you know what took front stage today in a way that I'm sure Josh Kroenke loved and Stan Kroenke loved? Having to go to San Diego. Asked about it by a lot of people, including Michael Malone, and they all hate it. So just in case you were wondering, they all hate it. And he says, somebody asked him, what is the reason for this? And he goes, well, the reason is our practice facility is too small. And then he said something like, when we get one, so he almost corrected himself, a bigger one, then we could fit everybody. But that was a bit of a talking point today, even amongst the players who were like, I would rather be here getting used to the altitude as opposed to going to San Diego.
Was it Bruce Brown or KCP?
KCP, yep.
It was KCP who was like, yeah, I wish we had training camp here so I could get used to the altitude.
DeAndre Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
DeAndre Jordan, too. Yeah, it is a little interesting how you would go to someplace that's sea level and then come back up to altitude.
They used to go to Colorado Springs, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's a waste.
I mean, they are training here all, this month, last month, so you're getting accustomed to it.
I actually don't think they are. I think if you actually look at the rhythm of the season, they come back for 3-4 days to play against Oklahoma City in the preseason, but then they're in California for like they're on the road for the rest of the preseason. So I actually, it was one of the things I thought about of like, when they get home for actual home games, they're not going to have any acclimation to I don't think at that point. They won't have spent enough time here.
Yeah, but DeAndre Jordan's been here for the last month.
Well, okay.
So he's trying to get acclimated because he's going to be going back and forth so much. So it's definitely something.
Yeah, again, trying to keep this moving. We'll get into some player specifics now. He was asked about Bones Hyland. He thought, again, something that's been reiterated to me through everybody I've talked to, that Bones had a tremendous summer. And what I thought was great from Michael Malone was the specific reason for why he felt, and the word he used was maturation. Mm-hmm. He said that he felt like Bones needed to mature a little bit, and he noted it's going to be more, there's still more to go. But you come into the league at 20 years old, there's a lot of just growing up you had to do. And I asked him, what does that mean? Like, what does it look like? And he said it was a more serious presence when he's working out, more intensity, but also just he's used this, you can feel sometimes when somebody's in the gym, you get a sense. And he said that's what it was this summer with Bones. You could always feel when he was in the gym. And I just thought that was I was glad he put it into those terms. You know what I mean? So it wasn't just this abstract Bones had a good summer. It was like, hey, no, you could tell he was here and he was working.
Yeah, I mean, he's continuing to get better. And also he even went on to say that you forget that this is only his second year. Like, that just is the type of presence that Bones brings. Like, he's an outgoing, extreme type of player, and just having him in there, and a lot is riding on him this year. So I am glad that every single person had to get a touch point of Bones, because this is a big year for him, especially with being the backup to Jamal, who has to still work himself back into things. Right. So like having to take a not just fun approach, but also professional and be more focused. Like, in a way, he's gonna have to be a leader, even though he's just so young. But that's the way you're supposed to be. So having those older vets around where he is the young guy and trying to work his way into that goes a long way. But it's great to hear all of the positive things coming out of Bones Hyland, because he is the most important player when it comes to just like the maturation process of the team. So it was great.
It's a tightrope walk with him too, because you don't want Bones to lose who he is and what makes him Bones, but you do need to reel certain stuff in. So it's a balancing act. And having the vets, I wonder if we're talking about Ish Smith as helpful in this regard 2-3 months down the line.
I want to keep it moving here. 2 other players before we take our first break, but 2 other players. One, I get to collect a check from my colleague Matt Moore later on today. He was emphatic when asked about Colin Gillespie or however he came up, and he's like, people don't realize he was going to play this year. He was going to have a role for our team, which is something I fully believed when I was watching Summer League. I was like, this guy's an NBA player in a specific role. And, he just went out of his way to mention that how much he and look, he's an East Coast point guard. What's Michael Malone, an East Coast point guard? I mean, there's a
Michael Malone sees himself in Colin
1,000%. But he went out of his way to kind of say, like, hey, no, that's not how we do business here. That's why we kept him. Most teams, and I believe him when he says this, most teams would have just like cut him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it does say something. And then lastly, on Zeke Naji, it's funny. he says he's a big, which is funny to me because at the exit interview, what did he say? He's a power forward. This time he made sure to say he's a big. He's not a 3. I don't know if that was clarification because when he said it at the exit interview, Zeke Naji as a 4, it almost felt like he was pigeonholing him into that, saying he's not a 5, he's not a 3, he's a 4. And Zeke Naji today said he prefers to play the 4. That's his most comfortable spot. But Michael Malone did amend that comment to say he is a 4 or a 5, basically, kind of giving him the option there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you just look at Zeke also today, and the guy looks jacked.
Yeah.
He put on, what did he say?
10.
10 pounds of muscle. You
Yeah.
can tell. He's not bullshitting about that.
Right.
And, I mean, you can just connect the dots and say that a reason he's bulking up is to potentially play some minutes at center. So it will be interesting to see how it sorts out. I mean, one of my takeaways from today is I don't think the backup center position is solidified. I think a couple different guys could play that. DeAndre Jordan, Zeke Naji, like they'll see how it works out. But I just hope that Zeke can get some steady minutes off the bat because last year he showed what he could do with some consistent playing time.
Adam, were you a bit shocked that Zeke did not embrace that backup center role with it being like an open space? That's an opportunity for him to play. And then when asked about it, what's your position? He's like, I'm the 4. I'm a 4 guy.
Right.
And they've already tried to move him around to the 3, so they're trying to get him away from the backup 5. But I feel like if he embraces that, wouldn't that be the opportunity for him to get more minutes?
Yes and no, though, because yes, if you think about yourself in terms of season by season, like here on this team, but Zeke is a player that I think is good enough to be thinking even more long term about what's best for him, and I agree with him. I think he's best as a 4.
Yep.
You lose a little bit of what makes you special if you have to play big. All of a sudden, he's not. He's kind of undersized, this or that. So I do understand why he would personally want to be there. I do think, to your point, though, looking at the specific season, he's probably going to get more minutes either at the 5 or alongside Jeff Green where there's just no 5, and we'll have to see how that goes. A couple other quick notes here. Calvin Booth talked about, he's already been asked these questions, but he talked again today about how he feels that Michael Malone, and I actually think I can see this in the press conferences, is really going all out to try to embrace and empower Calvin Booth.
Yeah.
I feel like, again, I'm not trying to put too fine of a point on this, but I feel like Michael Malone likes Calvin Booth's vision. Like they've used a lot of the same buzzwords.
Look at the guys he's brought in.
Defense is the word. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is I feel like there is a lot of Calvin being like, boom, the guy that's like fully in on the things I'm fully in on. Again, is that good, bad? We're going to find out. The Nuggets win a championship with these guys. I think we're going to say yes. But nonetheless, I think to me, that's really stood out in all of the conversations. The consideration, Calvin Booth said when he was asked a question about losing Barton and Monte, 2 playmakers, and you bring in Bruce Brown and KCP who are not necessarily playmakers, and he said, to be honest, that wasn't a consideration for us, meaning we don't think that's important. A-plus guys, that was the biggest thing, and they bring defense and length and sort of the style of play that he believes that they needed to move towards. But he went on to say, and I think it's funny, I'm sure George Karl disagrees as evidenced by when we did a show together, he says you don't need Chris Paul. You don't need a point guard if you have Nikola Jokic. So we don't feel like we have a lack of playmaking. We have enough playmaking between Bones and Murray and Jokic, and you don't necessarily need these shooting guards that can handle the ball. That'll be another thing that we kind of we see going into it. And then again, he was asked, or actually they were both asked, but he answered, are there any limitations for Michael Porter? Because we know with Jamal Murray being cleared, we kind of know the status of him. He said it's been mostly linear progress, meaning no setbacks, over the summer, and that there's no limitations for him right now. They'll get into camp and kind of see how everything goes. So, to me,
the big meeting between the Nuggets and the team doctors is tomorrow.
Is that right?
That's what he was saying the whole day today.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The big meeting when they're going to decide on the pathway for, Jamal, Nikola, MPJ, how much they're going to play in the preseason, how much they're going to practice. The big meeting is tomorrow.
Should be a big day.
I did take note of the fact that it was framed as he says he's feeling the best he's ever felt. Like there wasn't a lot of
It's important, I think.
Of direct, there wasn't anyone saying I think. It's he says this, and there haven't been setbacks.
Well, with the meeting coming up tomorrow, maybe
Big
this
meeting.
is his way to pitch himself. to have the conversation of, hey, I am able to come back. I'm able to play. I have no limitations. He came out straight up and said that.
Yeah.
So maybe this is his pitch because they're going to have their own, ideas.
Let's couch that because we're going to have a Michael Porter segment coming up. I just wanted to get through the big things with Calvin and Michael Malone. On the other side, we'll talk about what they said about Jamal Murray and obviously what Jamal Murray said about himself and about his situation, which I think is maybe the most interesting part of all media, Nate.
Ivaca TV. Guys, get set up with Ivaca right now so you're good to go for Nuggets season in less than a month. Go to Ivaca.tv/Colorado10. Ivaca.tv/Colorado10.
Hey, Nuggets game next Monday.
Yeah.
Nuggets game next Monday, guys.
My goodness.
Ivaca, it's $25 a month plus a $5 receiver fee, but right now you guys can get $10 off that for those first 3 months. Ivaca.tv/Colorado10. Also gets it up with these guys before Nuggets season. There's a lot of late nights during the Nuggets season for us. If you're watching, Athletic Greens can help you out the next morning. 1 scoop of Athletic Greens every single morning puts you on to a great day. Just the perfect routine starter. 1 cup of Athletic Greens, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. You put 1 scoop in a cup of water every single morning. It's how you start your day. You're going to feel great. So go to athleticgreens.com/nuggets, athleticgreens.com/nuggets to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Alrighty, there we go. Back here, segment 2. Let's jump right into it. Jamal Murray, obviously the guy we most wanted to hear from today. Quick note, with Media Day, they had 1 press conference set up, 1 table. And they live streamed it, so you guys could probably go see that if you want to after the show. You can go look at, fast forward to the parts you want or what have you. But I love that they brought Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic out together. That just warmed my heart. It was one of the best parts about it. What's your big takeaway here, Vogt, from Jamal Murray's press conference?
Well, we heard Bones Hyland say, I'm in a great headspace. I thought Jamal Murray seemed to be in a great headspace. This is
fantastic.
Obviously, it's the first time we've talked to him in a while as media. And Kale's doing it live. So, but he, I thought, had a renewed energy for the process of the media. I also think there's something to the point that Dev said earlier where, I think some of the younger guys come into the league and they're not sure how to handle media. You see Jeff Green, DeAndre, Ish Smith get up there and joke and keep it loose 13 years in. Maybe it's not this big, bad media monster, but mostly I thought he had a refreshed energy for the process, a changed perspective, I think. Not like a radically changed one, but I think some of what's important about the process and the game and what it means to him was driven home by going through this process. I overuse this expression, but Jamal looked to me like a guy who's finally breathing through 2 lungs again after a year of only having 1, and the relief is almost palpable. So
to be clear, though, no lung injury on top of the knee injury.
Just to be crystal clear.
Just an awkward
Both
metaphor.
lungs are working.
Okay.
Awkward metaphor. Jamal's fine.
What do you think, Dev? What stood out to you?
I think Jamal was as loose as I've ever seen him for sure. In a setting like that, especially like Media Day used to be like you just go and grab guys. It was more open. You could talk about things that are not just basketball. You could. I feel like they were just a lot more loose with you. In that type of setting, it's just like so many questions where it's getting grilled. It feels like after they lose, for the year, and you have to do like the exit interviews. That's kind of like the mindset. It feels like he did not make it seem like that. It was fun for him.
Yeah.
He was ready to talk. He wanted to talk about the injury and also coming back from that, and just I feel like a new sense of like life in a way. He's joking a lot more. He seems like him and Jokic are in a way better space than they've ever been. And it wasn't just like, straight Bruce Lee quotes from Jamal Murray, and I like that. I really think that he was his best self today.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he's starting to do that. So it's just part of him. His maturation process. It wasn't like if somebody says something to him and he wants to just refute that or just like battle. I feel like every single person gave their real answer for things, and it wasn't like a media versus the players.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
And you're right that of all the players on the Nuggets roster, especially of the star players or big players, Jamal Murray has been in the past the most combative in that way, and he really was not today in a way that I personally really appreciated. But I also looked at it and I thought that, as I think you're saying, is that seemed like both a sign of maybe personal growth. Just kind of, he was 23 last time he really did media consistently. Now he's 25. Wow. That's a big gap. But also maybe just, as he said, not taking the game for granted. And that means perhaps including this part of it, which, look, man, we've interviewed players from the 90s. You know, like the Nuggets would bring guys back, and you could tell that they missed being in front of the camera. Like nobody ever asked me this stuff anymore, and it's kind of nice to be back here. And I do wonder, it's annoying when you do it every single day, but I do wonder when you just miss all of it, if you start to like even the bad parts.
Yeah. My word that I would come back to with Jamal is just grateful. I feel like he's just grateful for everything. Just to be one of the guys again, to put on a jersey again, to just be able to play again, to be in the locker room with the fellas, to just go through the routine. Jamal's such a routine-oriented guy, like from his preparation to watching film to like the media stuff to what he does post-game. And just to be back in that routine again, I feel like he's grateful because without basketball, like I don't know how much else he has. Right. I remember when we spoke to him, it wasn't right when he got hurt, but it was during his rehab. And I was like, have you picked up any hobbies, since the injury? And he was like, no, basketball's my life. So I just got this sense from him that he's really grateful to just be back in the mix, be back in the swing of things.
Another thing, though, he still said taking time to play without thinking about it, which is an interesting one because you had like Michael Porter who had the exact opposite take where he's like, when you jump or dunk, you don't think about whether you're going to twist an ankle. Jamal Murray, in the exact opposite. He said still taking that time, and there's still steps along the way, even though we heard from others that Jamal Murray looks great. Like we asked everybody, like, how does he look in these workouts? And they're like, oh man, he's fully back. Yeah. So again, I like you have to be confident, a certain level of confidence in yourself to be like, hey, man, I still have more to go. Like, there's big steps along the way when everyone else is like, I don't know, he looks like prime Jamal.
Because it's one thing to play in the Nuggets practice gym in Phoenix where he's been, in Australia. And then it's another thing to play on an NBA court with a crowd. Once that happens for the first, that's going to be a big step. The first preseason game opening, like that's going to be a big step in just taking a deep breath, and I think him being like, all right, I'm okay.
I will. So the one thing I kind of, when I talk about him like being grateful and actually answering questions today in a way he didn't, he did blow one question off, which was, I asked if he's played with Jokic yet, knowing that the answer was likely no. Jokic just got back last night, as Michael Malone said. He was milking the clock of the offseason, showing up at the last minute to get in, which is funny. Two-time MVP, you can do that. But the reason I thought I was hoping that it would get a little bit more play is, to me, that's a big moment. I don't know if it is for those guys, but it is like, all right, you've played in pro-ams, you've played in 5-on-5s, you played with, Bones and all this or that, but getting back on the court with Nikola, to me, again, they're Stockton and Malone. They're like an iconic duo. So to me, that there's a level of being back once you get to play with your other half, so to speak.
Yeah, I thought he did ultimately say, though, they looked at each other and they said, it's not an explicit game plan. We don't talk to each other about how we want to go about it. It's read and react. And I do think that's an element that'll be a bit more like riding a bike. I do think when they're together, they'll know what to do.
Yeah, a lot of what he did speak about, though, was mental, a lot more mental than anything else. Like he did, discuss being sore still after working out and things like that.
That stood out to me a lot.
So just show that he's still not there. But also he said it's like still simple things like walking down the stairs. So he's not back. He never declared that he was back either. And he said he still has a long way to go. On the other end, everybody else is saying he's back and he's ready. And the reason I even also know that he's not all the way back, he never once talked about his one-on-one or anything like that. And that's something that he discusses often.
He might not have played Bones one-on-one yet because he's not quite.
Yeah, he's not there yet.
He's like, I can't beat him 11-1 yet. Yeah. It might be 11-7.
But it is
I don't
great
know,
to see,
man. I don't know.
It is great to see that he is still open, but he's also still very open about he is not himself yet.
I think Wind hit the nail on the head, though. I don't think he can achieve that clarity and confidence off the NBA court.
Yeah.
Until he sees himself go out and do it for a week, he's gonna have these questions, I think.
With Jokic, being there with him. Jokic just got back. We were talking about this. Jokic to me was one of the few. There's two players today that I thought were maybe a little edgier than usual. Everybody else vibes up 100%. You don't worry about Jokic. But I do remember this last year. Last year was the horse smell has a certain smell or something that so only the horseman can appreciate. Yeah. That was last year. And I just remember thinking, Jokic's worst week of the year is the first week he gets back from Serbia. It takes him a week and that's how I felt today.
Yeah.
Some people were, Dev, you and I were talking about he was the one. He was kind of a jerk almost today, more so than he typically. He usually is just neutral, and today he was a little edgy. And I honestly think it was that he just got back, man. It's like a dad at work first day after vacation.
Yeah, I think a lot of it does come to that. He even alluded to the fact that he just got back because that's why he said that him and Jamal have not played, and things like that. But also, I think that he really is just a different person. I think he is now understanding I am that guy. It's not to say that he's cocky or things like that, because I actually appreciate the fact that he now understands I'm better. I'm just everyone keeps talking about the leadership aspect. Everyone keeps talking about these things, but he's also the back-to-back MVP, and they keep on talking about the things he needs to grow on. But I do think that he was responding back to every single thing in a defensive way, kind of speak. But he's proved it. He's shown that he's the best player in the world, So he does have those type of things. But it is, different to see how he is changed in those type of aspects. But I think it's better for him on the court.
You know what he's not a fan of? The new rule for the take foul, which you could call the Jokic foul, the fast break one. It was one of the sneaky, more interesting things today, was him not only hating that rule and going into different reasons for it and doubling down. And he didn't want to answer questions today. And that one, he was like, I've got layers to my opinion on it.
He even jumped in when Jamal was talking.
And exactly. And then he almost said what would have been probably the most interesting thing he's ever said, which was there's a bunch of other rules they should fix before they fix that one. It's what? And he's like, I don't want to get fined, which, first of all, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. If you're talking broadly about the rule book, right. I don't think you'll get fined. Nonetheless, it made me sit and think, I don't know why this was weird to me, Wind, that he actually has very deep and nuanced thoughts about the NBA rule book.
I never thought about that. I was
kind of wow, I would not have guessed he had these takes.
What do you think he wants changed?
That's what I started wondering.
What rule does Nikola Jokic want changed?
Probably allow you to guard the perimeter. I'm serious. This is my big thing. Nobody talks about in the NBA. You can't guard the perimeter. It's a joke. It's a gimmick.
Yeah. No 3-point line.
They could jump sideways they could just do anything out of the perimeter.
If I'm bleeding from my arms, call the foul. Maybe that's maybe that's a change he's looking for.
You're right. It actually probably wasn't that deep. He was probably just call for more fouls.
Remember when Jokic in a Serbian interview, so this is indirect, but he said he referred to the NBA media thing as the circus, right?
Yeah.
It's just
he was at the circus today.
Yeah, he just hates the questions. There was one question, and it was
he didn't like any of the questions.
And there was one he hated, and it was. And I know what he hated about it. Someone asked Jamal what the best thing about Jokic is off the court. And Jokic rolled his eyes so hard they never came back down.
You're right.
And he just doesn't understand why we find him interesting.
He probably hated our service. People always write me and they're like, Jokic probably really appreciates it. Guys, I think he hated that.
He is good at basketball, and that part he knows, and he almost reluctantly accepts. But why that makes him interesting, he resents that notion. Yeah. And so which is unfortunate because we find him so deeply interesting.
We find him from a distance. I will say, though, we're burying the lead here, guys. We're 30 minutes into the show, and there is a top story today. He had a quote that he just sneaks in there. Every now and then, just sneaks one in there, and he says, I want to be the Tim Duncan of the Denver Nuggets, but I need a couple of championships to be him.
A couple. Not one. He said a couple.
He's never Jokic never really shares his own goals in that way. But again, he was asked later about, so you want to retire here, and he's like, I don't want to say something, and then he made a joke, and maybe Nick O'Hare throws something at me and I want to leave. But he was saying, look, I'm not going to say that because who knows what the future will. I honestly believe that Jokic thinks about the future less than maybe any player in the NBA. I think he actually thinks less about the past and future. But I do think it was a rare insight into him when he says, in the most definitive terms we've ever seen, that I have a player that I actually think is the best model for me, and it's Tim Duncan. One team, multiple championships, entire career.
Yeah, he even went on just to discuss just what it means to him. He the plan is to retire here. Like he said that, even though he made the jokes and went around it, he said the plan is to retire here. And he talked about Tim Duncan of all the people. Like, that's a known winner. That's also the best in that organization, that they've ever seen. So for him to like just keep on going after certain types of people like that goes. It was Larry Bird for a while. Now it's Tim Duncan.
Can I tell you, he could have said Dirk.
Could have.
Yeah. He could have.
Oh, we could have.
But he didn't. He said Tim Duncan.
It's the
and he
best
said
answer. It's
multiple
the best
championships.
answer.
It really is the best
best
answer.
answer you can give.
I mean, do you have something to add to this? Because it's just like, to me, the feel-good quote of the millennium.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. But it also speaks to the fact that winning a championship is the next thing that's up.
It's the only thing for him,
like,
man.
He can be Tim Duncan in terms of being this quiet leader, best player on the team, franchise cornerstone, just icon in the city. Well, Tim Duncan won a bunch of championships. So if he's actually going to be that guy, yeah, he can stay with the Nuggets forever. But he's not going to be Tim Duncan unless he delivers rings.
Yeah, it was great.
That's what's next up.
Also, next up for him, according to Michael Malone, he's been saying this a lot lately, although I feel like Malone, there's a method to all of his madness. You guys have to know that Malone has been practicing his media day speeches for a month. Like, he has been jotting these down. This is how he works. He knows what the media's role in all of this is and how he can sort of wag the dog, so to speak. But, he was very pointed about Jokic has found his voice, but still uses it too sparingly. He's like, when he does speak, everybody's listening, but he almost makes it sound like he's still trying more for Jokic in that capacity. And Jokic maybe agrees or disagrees. I don't know. But to me, that was the big takeaway is Malone. Everybody is waiting for him to say something, and when he does, everyone is listening. But I want him to be more vocal in the huddles and in the locker room. So there's the challenge for Jokic this year.
And like we were talking about earlier with just the new faces here, there's a lot of outspoken dudes on this roster now.
Yeah.
Bruce Brown, DeAndre Jordan, Jeff
Is Bruce
Green.
Brown outspoken?
I think he can be. I think he can be comfortable in talking.
But that's different from outspoken. I agree with you. I think he's comfortable speaking.
Yeah, so I think there's also a lot of veterans on this team now. So I think it's maybe even a new challenge when it comes to Jokic stepping up in that capacity. Because, like, I'm sure DeAndre Jordan's going to take on a leadership role here, Casey, like, these guys have been around. They've been around great leaders before. So for Jokic to be able to talk to those guys is something new because they weren't here last year.
Let's hit MPJ here real quick. I thought he was the only guy today that I thought was a little bit of a strange, not strange, but like there was a mood to the day, and he was the one guy that was just a little bit different, and maybe that's his personality. Like, let's be honest, Michael Porter has a strange personality. I'm not breaking news here. He's a little bit different. But he did have things that just went against the grain. Like, whereas Jamal or maybe everybody was on the same page. And one of those was the shocker of the Michael Porter presser. He says, I would prefer to play all 82 games. I don't think the careful route makes any sense. And I just love this from a guy that's like already missed almost two full seasons.
Insane.
I actually kind of love it that he's like, look, guys, I just want to play. I don't sitting out, what does that mean? I just want to play. Now, that tells you a couple things. One, he must be feeling great personally if he's like, I'm ready to play in every single game. And two, just like a different approach to him. Like, Michael Porter, he had some weird things today, like saying doctors don't know everything. And, you get mixed report. He talked to a lot of doctors, got different reports, this or that. Some of those things that you can maybe, maybe make your eyebrows raise a little bit. But I think the heart of everything he is saying is, I don't think about these things or worry about them. I just want to play, and I want to play every game, and I want to play as much as possible.
I think with MPJ, I feel like everyone else came into media day loose and wanting to just talk about what they did in the offseason and things like that. I feel like MPJ came in with the idea that he's going to use the media to get his point across. I feel like really with that big meeting that is coming up, he wanted to show, I am able to play this year. I am back. I am ready. And I think that that's what today was about, is trying to prove, like, I can play. I'm actually, like, a little bit more shocked that he didn't talk more about open gyms and being able to, like, be, like, ready to just completely come back.
Michael Porter's been working in silence this summer. Like, because one of the things I wondered, when we didn't see him that way. He dropped a little mixtape here, a little video there. But we don't, like, I don't even now know how he spent his summer, relative to some of the other guys on the team. And I think that was one of the things like I walked away from today was like, okay, he was working hard on his game just on his own, like in his own sort of world.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. Here's what.
There's nothing wrong with that.
The only thing that scares you about that quote is you just hope, and again, not to imply that they aren't, because we don't know. You want to hope that he and the team are on the same page about how to approach. I think there's actually something to what he said, though, particularly with the nature of the injury he has. Like, the risk of Michael Porter shutting a season down is there this season. It's there next season. It's there the season after that. And, like, at a certain point, you are kind of hoping you get 1 to 2 healthy, good years out of him. There's a bit of a cross your fingers thing. And so you could put him in bubble wrap forever and it may not matter. I kind of think there is something.
Well, maybe Vogt, he's thinking about how he, before last season, played 2 straight years where he really wasn't hurt at all.
Right. Yeah, that too.
Yeah. But to go back to what you started with, Adam, look, we're not on the inside, so we just have to play body language doctor.
Especially with him.
Especially with him. It's what we do. Everybody was, like we talked about with Jamal, excited for today, it seemed like. Everybody was jacked up to talk. Everybody was engaging. Everybody seemed really happy to be there. And again, maybe this is not how Michael Porter Jr. felt, but this is just what we saw. He was like hunched over in his chair, wasn't really talking into the mic. Like, it was just such a difference between him and everybody else. And that's just what I observed being there. Like, maybe that's totally not what's going on with him, but it just, him compared to everybody else was just really stood out to me.
But he did do his research, though, when he's talking about, like, Ben Simmons and other guys. He talked about, like, the mental aspect of coming back to playing basketball. So, like, a lot of it was mental, which lets me know he is ready physically, because he is talking about playing in all 82 games. Like, physically, he's ready, but he continued to, like, harp on the mental aspect and trying to get himself back right, and then, like, the mental recovery and things like that. And that's why I think it's, like, a lot different with MPJ than everyone else, because you don't really talk about mental health with the other players. You just talk about them getting themselves back right and back together. But with him, like, I don't know if it's coding or what it is, but you're just trying to, like, get him to get a certain answer in a different way, and he gives it to you, but it's in a code, and you have to try to break that code. But he is ready for basketball, and I think that's the best timeline for everyone else is, like, I'm ready to play. I just have to get there.
I also think I wanted to kind of explain the doctor comments. I think naturally, someone with MPJ's background and some of the beliefs, the more things skew into the holistic alternative medicine approach, we're all going to maybe hold our breath. But I think what he was saying is that he doesn't put too much weight in prognosis from doctors, because if you'll remember, one doctor said he was undraftable, will never play again.
Right.
And then he played 2 years.
And then he played.
So I guess
how would you feel? You're right.
That's what I think he's saying his mentality can't be contingent upon the prognosis.
Right.
He has to keep
that's good,
a positive outlook.
Yeah, that's good. On more specifics, he did say that ball handling and shooting off of the dribble were emphasis. I mean, you ask players, every player you ask, like, what did you work on? They all say the same thing, my all-around game, every aspect of it. If you're lucky enough, they might give you one little thing that they emphasize, and he said shooting off the dribble and ball handling, which, to be honest with you, if there were 2 things I could ask for, those would probably be it. So I kind of like that answer. I thought it was great. And if he comes back with
defense would be good.
Yeah, but how do you work on that? We've talked about this before. How do you work on defense?
You watch film.
Even that, though, I mean, I feel like is a little whatever. So, nonetheless, I think you work on your offensive game, because that's the thing you can work on in ball handling, shooting off the dribble. To me, if Porter can dribble off of a screen into a pull-up jumper the way that Damian Lillard and Steph Curry can, he's not going to get the same opportunities to do it as they can. But if he can be at that level player, good night, everybody else.
Absolutely.
Let's take a break. On the other side, Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, all the new guys. We're going to run a little bit long today, guys, but it was there's a lot to get to still. And some good stuff.
The NFL action is in full swings here at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, even bigger wins. New customers right now can bet $5 on any NFL team to win. Get $200 in free bets if they do. They've also got the stepped-up same-game parlay going. For every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game That's code DNVR.
They have crazy deals right now for the start of football, man. Like every week, I'm like losing all my bets and breaking even because of all these stupid, like these crazy promos that they have going on.
You're losing money by not signing up. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Also, Colorado Golf. We got the CGA, Colorado Golf Association. If you want a CGA membership,
Bruce Brown.
Yeah, Bruce Brown.
Oh man,
member, probably, or soon to be.
I'm so hyped for Bruce Brown. He's up next.
Join over 70,000 golfers with the CGA today. Membership to the CGA means you get exclusive courses around the state to play, like Aspen Glen Club, the club at Ravenna, the Pinery, and more. You also gain access to exclusive content with offers and discounts from national and local companies, Imperial, Golf Tech, PGA Tour Superstar, many more. Learn more about the CGA at coloradogolf.org. Use the code DNVR5 to get $5 off your membership.
All right, and we are back. Segment 3. Dev, where do you want to go here? Let's go. I'll go Dev's choice.
Let's go.
We got through the big guys.
Let's go through Bruce Brown.
Media Day snacks.
Already right there.
Media Day snacks.
Hey, good this year. Fresh fruit.
Fresh fruit was a nice touch. I didn't touch anything though. Bruce Brown.
That was a quick segment.
Bruce Brown. What stood out to you, Dev?
Just like that he's been around the block and he's excited to be in a new role. Like he's been on teams, especially just like his last, the Nets. He was very open about like I'm new here. I'm glad to not be in that situation anymore. And no one actually grilled him about it or anything like that. He like said what he said and he moved on.
Did you kind of get the sense, because DeAndre, Jeff Green, these guys all have played together in New York. Do you kind of get the sense
that place sucks?
You get the sense that the group text was like, "Yo, come here."
Yep.
There's like,
Denver's chill.
There's
come
6
here.
dorks in the last.
Your quality of life is going to go through the roof.
They will
here.
not ask you about Kyrie once.
Well, not once. They don't even want to. They don't even know how.
He like straight up talked about it too. He's like, I'm so glad that it's different here. And also, like, at no point is it going to be close to what it was there. Yeah. And that's what the back-to-back MVP, like, he's not going to have to field all those questions the entire time. I know it had to be great for him to come into a role, come into a situation where he was the focus in those interviews, where, people were wanting to ask about him and not everyone else. I think that has to be great. He was also very confident, very cocky. I love that.
He is cocky.
I love that.
Bruce Brown's sneaky cocky. In fact, he's asked his first question. His answer is, "We all know why I'm here for defense." We guys all know I can play defense, right? Guard 1 through 5. Like, just very like, all right.
Yeah, and then he said something about how, I shot 40%.
Because
not many people know that.
Because was it Porter who said he's a better shooter than I thought?
He's like, dude, I shot 40% from 3 last.
He shot like 12% in the playoffs, but better.
Yeah, but like I love the cockiness, and I feel like he's going to fit a role that Denver desperately needs. And for you to be a confident shooter, they're going to need that, and you're going to be a defender. He said he played positions 1 through 5.
Yeah,
like come on, man. We know damn well you don't play positions 1 through 5. But
I think he does actually. I disagree.
There's no way.
On that Brooklyn team, he kind of did.
He kind of does.
It's a little bit different of a situation than here.
Bruce playing 5 is like it's a little different than a 5 playing 5.
It was like Zeke playing 3 though. It's like you're right that it's not the prototypical 3 or the prototypical 1 or 5, but I think that there is like. I would not be surprised. I think, all right, here's the take. I think we will see him as a 1 and a 5, and probably 2, 3, and 4 are kind of the same. But I think we will see him as the 5, and I think we'll see him as the 1 at some point this year.
Yeah. I love every answer from a coach that starts off with, most of you probably don't know this. But Malone said, like, most of you in this room are probably underselling this or probably don't know this, but Bruce Brown's going to be like a huge part of the team this year.
Yeah.
Michael Malone loves Bruce Brown.
By the way, my favorite part about that, everyone knows. It's been the talking point all offseason.
It's so funny.
But I love when a coach starts like that, though, because you're like, okay, this is actually something that they feel.
Right.
Michael Malone only reads kids. Let's go to Aaron Gordon now. Aaron Gordon, first of all, we'll get this out of the way. Matt Moore asked him about the thumbs down tweet, and I thought he handled this question extremely well. It's a tough one. He basically came out and just owned it, and I mean, he took a little way out, saying like I had to do more research. I didn't actually know what I was commenting on. Do I believe it? Doesn't matter. What he did come out and say is like definitively that what Anthony Edwards posted, he feels was wrong and warranted the fine. So whatever you want to say about it, he at least got out in front of it and didn't hide from it. He like made sure not to just say I'm sorry, but also just to be clear, I think that is wrong and what have you. So I just want to get that. We don't even have to talk about it. Oh, by the way, one more thing about Bruce Brown. He did say call out one player in particular. Do you guys remember who it was? Nobody remembers.
Call out on the Nuggets?
Yeah, saying like that they really impressed him. You guys don't remember?
Bones.
Bones is a bucket.
Yeah,
he was asked. He's like
did.
all the guys look really good, and then when he gets to Bones, he goes, Bones, man, Bones is a bucket.
Yeah, he even talked about extreme energy with him, right?
Extreme energy, yes, exactly.
Yeah, like
scores at all three. You're right, because he went through like all the players, like AG, blah blah blah. He didn't say anything about him. Then he gets to Bones, and he had like a paragraph.
Which is great because this is like a really good defender who's now having to play against him, and he sees like, all right, it's tough being in front of him. Yeah. This guy that could play positions 1 through 5 calls out the young springy guy, and he also said like he's good, like he's for real legit. Like he straight up said that, but like for Bones, I'm telling you, for Bones, everybody called out Bones at some point. Mm-hmm. That just shows what he's been.
Here's another observation: a lot of headbands on the Nuggets this season.
Yeah,
KCP, Bruce Brown, 2 newcomers, both headband guys.
Yeah,
AG, Bones,
Zeke,
Zeke and KCP walked out. They look like they could have been like brothers. Same hair, headband.
And I thought it was interesting, Bruce Brown, and not you can read too much into this, but Michael Porter and Bruce Brown walking out together, I thought was interesting. Like the pairings today were, a little bit noteworthy. Aaron Gordon, though, going back through it, how did he work on some of the things? He went through synergy, best 3 games, worst 3 games, and then worked with his agent and some of his, his advisors about different statistical categories that he could work on. Again, this is what's funny. He was asked about Jokic being more of a vocal leader. He's like, he already is. He talks every time out, every game, makes sure to run the same page. So.
I was genuinely curious about that. I didn't feel like we had a definitive read on to what extent he's vocal on game nights. But
he said that Ish Smith is a problem, but then later said, and a solution.
There was a lot of fun. I was going to do it.
I love AG, man.
Shout out whoever asked.
The mathematical equation Smith.
Yeah. And I love whoever it was that we actually asked, are you aware that you're a Nuggets killer to Ish Smith?
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what's funny, man? I hear that in Boston. I hear that in Phoenix.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I actually went back and looked at numbers. That narrative's kind of not really true.
Well, he did kill him one night. There's one game.
Yeah, it was really one game.
Yeah. It was great to see those two up there because
you looked at that.
Aaron Gordon loved Ish Smith. And Ish Smith loved Aaron Gordon.
It was a great pair.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. The chemistry. Like, this is a great locker room, man.
Yeah.
So many good guys, just so many cool personalities.
But yeah, you could just tell that Ish Smith has been around for so long that people do know who he is and they talk about him being a bucket and he embraced that. But just to go back to Aaron Gordon, he's just a guy that I feel like he could get along with every single player. You could put him on any team in the league, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be okay, and he was excited to talk about the additions of KCP and Bruce Brown and not having to actually guard anymore. And I think that was my big standpoint because he's just I get to be who I wanted to be. I don't have to get the ball every single time. I actually like flying under the radar. I like defending like that. Even someone gave him a pass about not having to be a point of attack defender, and he's like, I'm still going to do those things. I still am going to be that. But also I now get to go under the radar. And you could just see that bromance and just talking to each other the entire time. So that was great.
Can we power rank bromances today?
Oh, I'm into that.
Yeah. I think number 1 is going to be Jeff and DeAndre. That was the supreme bromance.
Those guys are best friends.
Dude. I think Ish and AG might be number 2.
That was good, man. That was super good.
I'm talking about press conference bromances.
Jamal.
I think it's 3. It was great, but I'm saying these guys were
They are there to have fun. Everyone else was there to have fun. You could tell Jeff.
Did you think Ish Smith and Aaron Gordon enjoyed their presser today?
I did.
Do you think Jokic enjoyed his?
No.
I rest my case.
I'm saying you put those two next to each other and just show them smiling at each other, and everyone is like, Oh, we're back.
And then
It's been a long
Bones
way.
and Vlatko were the two guys who have just never talked to each
they were
other
great.
before,
They might have
but
been
then
number
we're
one.
just vibing off one another.
They were so
Dude, it's cool.
You put Bones, the most outgoing dude, in the locker
you're
room
right.
with Vlatko, the most
Hey,
reserved.
Shouts to Nico Head for putting the
It
pair
was a
together.
great pairing.
The matchmaker over here.
Bones was Bones was actively realizing that Vlatko was funny in real time.
Yeah, it's like I've never
Like,
talked to this dude
guy's
before.
got great. Yeah.
I didn't know this guy was funny.
Holy shit, that's so funny.
It was fun. Like Vlatko, because the Bones Vlatko presser was 90% Bones, 10% Vlatko.
Oh, perfect mix.
And Vlatko just, for most of it, was just sitting there and just smiling.
He
at
was
Bones.
he was taking in the presser.
He's like, wow, this guy's
He's
awesome.
like, this kid really is big time.
This guy, he really is Mr. Nugget. He really is.
And by the way,
I think he is.
Yeah,
I think after today, sometimes you
Wow.
have to be back in the room.
yeah,
to
I
kind
got
of,
overzealous.
We could feel
Hey,
everybody
can I
was
say
great.
one more
We've all
AG
made
point?
mistakes.
Yeah.
AG said that he, right after the season ended, he quote downloaded end quote the playoff series. He's like downloading. I thought was the verb he used, and just sort of taking stock of what went right for him in that series, what went wrong. That seems obvious, but particularly for him in the series that he had, the first half of it a nightmare, the second half very validating. You want to make sure that Gordon isn't like, okay, I just made it through that series. You want him to have meaningful takeaways about what got him postseason success.
Do you think he was downloading it in his head or just off synergy onto his
I think
computer?
he literally meant download. He might actually have literally meant
I wish
download.
there would have been like a follow up with the synergy question, because like no other guy had that approach of, he said that like he took the, like this best 3 games and his like worst 3 games and then put them together and then tried to find the things that went well and what didn't go well. And I feel like that's like genius, like to actually go through, because like AG has some pretty big games last year, but there was also games that he underachieved,
Right.
and he understood that. And just to see like, okay, if we were able to sit there and talk to him for a bit longer, like, okay, well, what did you find from that? Or
Right,
what was like some of the things that stood out, and what, like, how does that make you a better player? Because this year is going to be a lot of under the radar, but still big ones, big time like moments and stuff like that. So I was excited to hear him say those type of things, because it was like there's more to AG than just athleticism and just playing,
Right.
extremely hard the whole time. But like there's like a mental edge that he's trying to gain.
One of the things you lose in this type of media scrum, where like everybody's just trying to get their question in or whatever, is because you said you wish there was a follow up. But there's like there's a
can't
lot
follow.
of you can't follow. Or I try. Sometimes I butt it in just over. But there were some where like somebody would say something really interesting
Yeah.
that clearly warranted one, and someone would speak in with like, "What was your favorite thing you did this summer?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"God damn it!" you just
AG was
asked
like,
me."
so yeah, I downloaded all these clips off Synergy, my best 3 games, my worst 3 games. I think I'm more of a high IQ player. So wait, where is that warehouse with the gym? Is that your home? Why are there cars there?
That's wacky, man. That's wacky. Like, all right. The last thing on AG, though, he did say that when asked about what it's like now having these guys back, his answer I thought was in typical AG hilarious fashion. He says there's a certain level of calmness. Yeah. Like, you have those guys there, and he kind of laughs about it. He's like, "Are you?" Well, what did he say actually when somebody asked him? He's like, "Are
What
you
do you
kidding?"
mean? He said, "What do you mean?"
He's like, "What do you mean, bro? Like, what?" It's like, no. But then he said, "Yeah, it's like you just play calm when you have so many guys. Any guy that can get you 20 and a quarter, they got all those guys on there." Keeping it moving here. We talked about Ish Smith. Let's get into it. I thought his perspective on everything was just so awesome. Like the one of the things he kept saying, and this is actually another theme I would say about it. This team to me felt very much grateful, as you used to describe Jamal Murray. But Ish Smith kept talking about, enjoy this, guys, enjoy it. Jack White was talking about, they kept telling me it's going to fly by, and it already is. Like, these guys were all like, hey, man, we're in this moment, and let's soak in. This is part of why I think the vibes are so good, is everybody kind of seemed to have this, we're in a moment, let's enjoy it. Even Ish Smith, who was like, enjoy the roller coaster, enjoy life. Things won't always be easy. It's how you deal with it that matters. I thought it was great.
Ish Smith is like, enjoy this because you can get traded to a new team every single year
He's
like I am.
You can be in Washington before you know it.
I truly loved the like how open he was about being traded all those times. Like I think a lot of times people are like, I feel bad for him. He's like, don't feel bad for me.
It's
like,
the business.
I'm getting paid to play basketball.
Yeah.
Like he had that like the mindset of, this is a business, and I'm okay with that. And also, he's taking things and he's learning along the way. He even spoke about, being in Denver. He's like, with all those bouncing around, he hasn't really been on many contenders.
Right.
So, like, that's what's different here is that he's like, you get to actually play for a championship. That's fun. And I also feel like he's going to actually play this year. Like, Malone alluded to the fact that, it's going to be Jamal, then Bones, then him. So there's going to be times that he has to step up and play.
Right. Well, if Gillespie would have played, Ish Smith will definitely.
So that like pushes him down. So now there's an opportunity, and he embraces that more than anyone else. So I liked how professional he was, but also just like it's a business, and then you got to learn those type of things.
And he even said, I don't overthink what my role will be, because he kind of got the trap question of like, hey, do you think you're going to play this year? Do you think you're going to have a defined role? And he's like, guys, I just hoop. I don't worry about any of those things. And part of his background, I'm sure, has given that of like, you can't control what your role is going to be. You can't control if your team's rebuilding or trying to win or whatever it is. Just go out there and be yourself, and he's good with it. And it made me think he might go through a month where he plays a lot, a month where he doesn't play at all. And I think he'll be good with it either way, or both, whatever. But then also he did shout out one player, said they're special. Do we remember who it was?
It was Bones Hyland.
Bones Hyland. Bones is special. Let's get into KCP. Who was out with Ish? Oh, no, we already went. AG. Gosh, there's so many guys. All right, let's get into Bones real quick. He did say he reached another level of confidence, which I feel like, I don't know if that's
what
possible.
Even is that?
I think he's just still confident. He did say his highlight. I do love Bones is so great, man. I do love that his highlight of the summer was when he intentionally missed a free throw so that he could end the game on a. I just love it, man. Yeah. Talk about cocky.
Was that before or after his confidence went up another level?
Yeah, for real. He did say he couldn't watch Eurobasket because he couldn't figure it out. Which we got, Bones, hit us up, man. I could have found a
Bones,
link for
got you.
We got you, dude. We got you. But he did say he watched all of the highlights. He did make Vlatko very. At one point, Vlatko hugged him for his enthusiasm for his guys. He gained 6 pounds, which I love. Everybody goes in intervals of 5. He went 6.
He also said, "But my metabolism's so fast, I don't know if it matters."
Can I tell you something? It doesn't matter. Like, there's no amount of weight you could have told me he gained, but I'm like, whatever. It doesn't matter. So I love that he was kind of honest
telling the
about
truth.
that.
If
That's
you say the number.
You're
you
right.
say the number 6. It is the truth.
Yeah. And he's like, and I lost it all already.
I'm going to run that off really quick. No,
there are guys in the past who've been like, I gained 20 pounds. You're like, you look the exact same. Right. I gained 20. And you're like, come on. So I did like that.
I believed you, Trey Lyles.
He did say, he did say that his biggest jumps have always been year 2, high school, college, and now the NBA, which is a classic Bones. I love it. Isn't that a classic Bones?
Yeah, man. It's just great.
I love this.
He kept saying that he's just in the best headspace, and every time he said it, my personal headspace improved.
It's so true. Oh, you want to know the best line, though, is where he just talked about, doing the thing at the dog park and this or that. And he's like, guys, that's me. Like, some people get tired of doing that. He's like, not me. I could be in the community for hours and hours. Building relationships takes you farther than basketball will. And I love it. And honestly, here's the thing about it. I do think there's a lot of sincerity to it. I've talked a lot about Bones. To me, reminds me of Jamal years back, where it's like he's just young. Like me being an old 38-year-old. Like sometimes when I'm around these 20, 21-year-olds, I'm like, man, these guys are so young. And I still feel that, but I thought that this was like a very honest and insightful. When people can be insightful about themselves, I'm always extra impressed. And I thought that was an insightful self-analysis of like, guys, I just get energy from being around people, man. And that's why I do it.
Bones, man, I don't know if there's many guys in the league who just are enjoying life as much as Bones is.
He's a special kid.
He's living life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And that comes off in everything he does. It comes off when he's doing the stuff off the court in Denver like he did this summer. It comes off when he's playing. He's at a 10 all the time.
Anything else on Bones here?
He said when he played against Jamal Murray for the first time on the practice court, he had tears in his eyes because he was so happy that Jamal was back.
I always think back. I might have shared this before.
Are you kidding?
Magic Johnson allegedly in his first game winner at the buzzer. I think Kareem hits a skyhook or something at the buzzer to win game 1 of the season, and he runs and jumps in his arms because he was so excited. And Kareem's like, "Bro, it's the first game. What are you doing?" I feel like that's Bones. He brings that energy where guys are like, "All right." You need one guy that's on a road trip. You need somebody that's like excited on the first mile. And you're like, all right, this guy's going to pick it up. Vlatko, we didn't ask him about being Chucky. I'm actually kind of bummed about it.
Yeah, that was a failure.
I
had it in my notes.
Man, we got a lot
You had
of
it in your notes?
opportunity.
I had it in my notes.
We got a lot of
I still
chance to
didn't
talk
do
to
it.
him coming up.
We do. His only note I have from Vlatko, other than hugging Bones at one point, is him saying the difference between Jokic and Luka is that Luka yells a lot. He yells at the refs. He yells at teammates.
Luka does yell a lot.
He yells at the crowd. He wants everyone to know that he's the best, and he says that Jokic not so much.
But you know what I love from Vlatko? He has not ever intentionally bricked a free throw so he can hit a game winner. Says he does not have the balls for that.
He's I don't have my balls aren't big enough for
Can't
that.
help but just be honest.
Yeah.
Zeke Naji gained a bunch of weight over the summer, 10 pounds according to him. It has not slowed him down, though. I love this note. He's like, but I don't want you thinking this has slowed me down on the perimeter. I'm still just as fast out there as I've ever been. I'm just stronger.
My favorite quote from Zeke was, "I gained muscle to get stronger."
He's like, to set screens? No, to be
get
stronger.
stronger.
He sees himself as more of a 4 than a 5, but he's willing to play the 5. He's more comfortable as a 4, allows him to be more versatile, which I understand. And then he gave us this great detail. He says Ryan Saunders is a Minnesota guy, and he has some familiarity there. And other guys have talked about Ryan Saunders already putting his stamp. He's going to be like the defensive coordinator, already kind of putting his stamp on those types of things. Wasn't necessarily so much schematically as much as like the way they're coaching details, which, again, this is the thing I always talk about. I get annoyed about what type of pick and roll defense is a team playing. Playbook. We have it, right? We have access to the entire playbook. Every team has the same playbook. With the difference are the details. And that's why I saw some conversation about, are they changing the pick and roll scheme to be this or that? And Davon Reed even went in on this, saying it's really more about the details of the scheme that are going to change or this or that. And I just thought that was a really cool detail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, also, I mean, it's a like I don't want to put words in his mouth because he did not use these words. This is me talking. That's a kind of a bold quote, right? Like when you go from one coach to the next and you say, look, I anticipate an increased level of focus. Mm-hmm. You know, essentially conceding that the requisite level wasn't there last year.
Yeah. And then Zeke Naji, of course, the court he built in Nigeria along with his family and his foundation is the first of 5, which I hadn't seen that detail. So there are going to be 5 of them, as well as a STEM aspect. That's, of course, science, technology. What is it? You're an educator. Engineering and math. So anyway, going to have an academic component of all of this, which I think is really just really cool. You know who is a sneaky great? Not the MVP, but a sneaky great today? Davon Reed.
Oh, yeah.
I thought Davon was fantastic tonight. He said it was a sigh of relief knowing what he's been through to get to this point to get a full contract. I don't think people appreciate players like him and the journey that they went through to get here, constantly being at the doorstep but never getting to walk through the door and getting I don't even remember what the terms of his contract were. How much did he guarantee?
I think he got the PJ Dozier deal.
So it's like $3 or $4 million or something like that, right? But you're scoffing at $3 or $4 million. If I gave you $3 or $4 million right now, it'd be a life-changing thing.
You can.
Well,
Yeah.
he's also been already through the process of not getting $3 or $4 million, so he's like stuck around there. And I love the fact that he got to talk about not being there with his team, with the playoffs. Like, this is a guy that was, not big in the rotation, but a part of the team and not being able to play and how, in a way, he didn't say it, but it was like, he was like, I felt like I wasn't able to be with my guys.
Right.
So like that goes a long way. But yeah, I love how well spoken Davon is. Like he's real. Like he talks extremely well and about guys, and you could tell that he's like a favorite on the team that everybody's open with and wants to talk
Very
to
composed.
him. Yeah, very composed.
Jesus.
Is he not?
Is he not composed?
He's very composed.
Mr. Dependable Composure.
Mr. Deposure.
These guys probably read the internet and they're like,
They
I don't understand what
don't
anybody's
know what's
saying about us. Like, I don't understand. He's like,
Mr.
literally
Dependable.
search their name and it's just like inside jokes. They're like, what? I will say with KCP, we got to keep it moving here. I only have 2 notes. One of them is that he has been around as little as like anybody else on the road. I mean, he's barely been around, it seems a little bit. Nothing to read in there. This is the biggest note of the day from KCP. He said the Lakers practiced during COVID.
I need Adam Silver to open up an investigation
Guys.
into the 2020 Lakers.
Guys, he said legally. No, it wasn't legal to practice during COVID.
No.
He confessed discussed this.
You know why we know it wasn't legal? Because nobody knew about it. Nobody talked about
I
it.
can't put him on blast. I can't. It's in
No, it's on record.
It is on record. It's not me. It's not me that's saying this. I will say
But
today,
it also was in response to a question about like why they
Why
won
they
the
won? They won the
championship.
championship
Because
at
we were the
practice.
only team practicing
That's actually what he said.
for a 3-month window.
That is so crazy to say out loud.
Isn't this true? Isn't
crazy.
this true?
4-month window.
I'm telling you, this illegal. The Lakers champion has so many asterisks next to it.
It's
That's
a
all I'm
fake
saying.
championship. We all
Although
know
I will
that.
say today, Anthony
bubble counted,
Davis.
though, for
I only
Denver.
saw one quote out of Lakers practice. It was Anthony Davis has a quote where he says, "I should have been Defensive Player of the Year in 2020," which I just love because it's so far ago. Like, get over it, dude.
No
so
way he
true.
actually.
I swear to God, he said this today. Like, I should have been Defensive Player of the Year, not last year, 2 years ago. Oh, it's so ridiculous. Hate that Lakers team. Peyton Watson has his own videographer following him today. I thought that was kind of funny. His own guy, like, doing him the little inside behind the scenes with Peyton Watson. He's in the best shape of his life, constantly bringing the energy, that young energy that he has, according to him, especially on defense. He says he knows Andre Miller from, they're both LA guys. He has a relationship with them. Those are the only notes I had on Peyton Watson. Anybody else?
Oh no, like a big thing. A lot of the conversation was always around Kevin Durant. He said his big bro and mentor is Russell Westbrook.
LA guy, right?
LA,
LA
yeah,
guys
yeah.
and UCLA guy, but still, like
Yep.
that was
call.
crazy for like that was a new one for me because he never discussed that at all before. And he just kind of come out.
I don't know if I've ever seen such a middle ground between, like, the disparity between where he's picked, where he's at as a prospect, and his inner circle.
I do. Bol Bol was taken in the second round.
But Peyton seems to be a little more under the wing. Of
Well,
like
also
Kevin
Peyton
Durant or
Peyton
Russell
Watson
Westbrook.
hangs with Kevin Durant. Bol was hanging with like
Celebrities in this round. I mean,
Young Thug.
I'm just saying. Christian Brown, not a Chiefs fan. It's my only note for him. I love it. I actually really like Christian Brown. Man.
Are we gonna really put Christian Brown on blast though?
For the Chiefs thing?
Well,
No,
you know
first
what he went
favorite
on to
NFL
say,
player.
Yeah,
Oh, for Tom Brady.
I like how he stopped and he goes, he realized in mid-second, like, that's not going to fly in Denver.
He's like,
I know.
shit.
Yeah, his Q score rose for like 1.6 seconds.
And then he
like,
tanked
I don't
it.
like the Chiefs. I like Tom Brady.
And he's
And
But he
then
kept
Dev
going
sitting
with
here
it.
just being like,
My guy.
yep.
But he had like a Harrison Wynn type of like give me 3 NFL players, and he's just like my favorite.
Oh, get out of here!
I love it.
Get out of here!
It is like, where it's like, I like Joe Harris. Let me see who else do I like. I'm a big fan. Zvi Mikhailuk.
I was like, oh, this
You racist motherfucker.
it wasn't me. He said his list. He said Christian McCaffrey, Tom Brady, and Cooper Kupp. And I was like, why those 3 guys?
God, you guys.
It's kind of crazy. Not Mahomes?
Oh god, that's too funny. But I thought he was great, man. Like, I liked him. I just thought he was relaxed. I really like Jack White, man. I'm a big is something or nothing. Jack White says he leads in 3 of the 5 3-point shooting competitions that they have.
something.
The only question I had about him is, can he shoot the 3?
It was something and nothing. What I started to see along the way is no one else was competing.
That's so true.
in that.
That's
That's
a
what
good
I started
point.
to
That's a
see.
good
Like, because
point.
everybody's like, I haven't got a
KCP.
crack at it and stuff like that. The shooters.
Just KCP, right?
Well, he said like MPJ said he wanted to come after it, but that means that he
Didn't
didn't. come after
KCP
it.
say like, yeah, Jack White knows he's not the best shooter?
Yeah, no, Bones did.
was
Oh, is that
That was
Bones?
Yeah.
Is Jack White the best shooter on the team? Bones. No.
He knows he's not.
Yeah, but there was also like the numbers that he said on those competitions. Like that was what stood out. Like he's like knocking down 87 like 3-pointers and stuff like that. Like that's something. Like even if it is there. In the next coming weeks, they got to come out and say, like, yeah, I broke that record, even though it's going to end today. You still have to see if that's come. Also, that means that, like, a lot of other shooters that there's been there the last couple of years, how is he now the record holder? That means that they did have a crack at it before, and he's the one that has it all.
All right, we got.
I don't know. It's a story.
I like Jack White. I'm just going
I
to go
think
ahead
he's
and
a
say it.
player.
I'm a big Jack White
I think he
fan.
can play.
I'm not.
I don't think it'll matter on this team because there are so many other good players.
Oh, well, I walked away from media day today
Just
thinking,
kidding.
I'm like, I like not look. We root for the Nuggets here, but I kind of walk away going like, all easy to root for, man.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah,
like
I
it's
think
like
so.
There's nobody that you kind of have to really. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Last duo we have to get to, maybe the best duo, Jeff Green, DeAndre Jordan. I did not expect what we got from these guys today. Absolutely hilarious.
I don't think DeAndre knew what to expect today either.
DeAndre Jordan, I totally get it though, man. Everybody talks about like how much he can like charm everyone. Yeah. I'm charmed. I love DeAndre. The first 5 questions, or maybe it's only 3 questions he fielded today, including one sort of pointed one from Chris Marlowe, was basically, "You're old. Are you too old?" And he finally interrupted.
Still jump.
Like, he honestly came in, vibes up, grabbed some chips. He's having a good time, and like you kind of saw him be like, "Time out." He like actually was like, "Hold up, okay, you guys all asked. Do you guys think you guys not realize I'm 34, which is actually kind of young, but."
So am I injury prone or something? That's what he said.
I love that DeAndre Jordan made Jeff Green, be able to like be himself.
Yes, I agree.
Because we haven't seen that. We get to see him be the old vet. He's the older guy on the team and things like that. He got to just like, hey, look, this is what we're used to. They did this to me last year, but he never called us out for it and things like that. So like this was his time. Like he's like, I'm glad someone else is getting to feel this, and now I'm going to throw some jabs as well.
We were like, Jeff, what's it like dunking at 2,000 years old? Please tell us more.
Jeff should have been like, when he said, "Hey, they did it to me last year," and he should have been like, and then I set a record for most dunks in my career.
Right. But I think that like the best part was he's like, I thought you guys were with us. I thought you were on our side. I thought you was on our side. Like that was actually like funny. Like really, they had real chemistry where they're just like
have real chemistry.
They're gonna
you can tell they're
gonna do those. I hope that they have something throughout the year where they're just being fun and they're being able to have guys open up a little bit more.
Can we reach out to them? Jeff Green, DeAndre, you guys want to pod? We'll edit it. Kale, you'll edit it, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it's Kale. Super producer Kale is all over it.
He's not busy.
You guys got to do a podcast. And then Jeff Green, I love this line from Jeff. He says, people on the outside get caught up so much in the basketball. And the more I cover this league, people that have been following my career, me doing this since when I first did it, I used to do way more like X's and O's, almost like kind of stuff. One of the reasons that it slowed down a little bit, I still do that stuff a lot, the list or what have you. But one of the reasons is because I do think people really overstate those things. I was talking this earlier about the playbooks and, the defensive terminology, this or that. But honestly, man, the more I'm seeing this, the more I'm like, I can talk about this, this, or this, but the real things that are impacting the game are these other things. And him to say that is like, you guys focus on the basketball. Man, so much of it is this other stuff behind the scenes. The vibes. Just how do you carry yourself as an adult?
We talk about the vibes. It's not bullshit.
It's not. That's what's
There's
so
a reason
funny.
we talk about it so much.
And sometimes, and like the X's and O's of this obviously matter a lot, especially when you get into the playoffs, they become significantly more important. But I do think that those things get overstated in a lot of even analysts' minds, especially those that aren't like credentialed media members or this or that, because the more you see behind the curtain, the more you're like, this is actually the real challenge.
It's my biggest takeaway today. Malone going out of his way to point out in hindsight that was the worst September they ever had, solely with the point of juxtaposition that this was a good one. Really, that things are better. That's my biggest takeaway. We knew on paper after Booth's moves that this roster has more or less everything it needs. Mm-hmm. But this is one of the ingredients too. And so when you hear that Jeff worked the guys out, that AG had the team over, that they played paintball, that those vibes are there, that stuff isn't just a media day checklist. It's step one in the long journey.
Hit that outro music here, Kale, and tell me, let's go around the list here. I know we went a little bit long today. MVP of Media Day. I know it's a dumb award, but we can hand who's in the conversation for MVP of Media Day? Go first, Harrison.
I'm going to give it to Jamal Murray. Vibes were incredible.
I'm going to also go with Jamal Murray. Like, he was just a different Jamal. Like, I like this, humble in a way, but like, Wynn was saying, he's just grateful. He really is. He understands what basketball means to him, and he had it taken away. I do think we're going to see a Jamal that just really loves to play instead of just straight competing the entire time.
Where are you going to go?
Bones was. I thought Bones was the star.
You thought he was the star
of his own presser, but other people's answers as well.
You think he outshined Vlatko?
No, but I'm saying when you ask people, like you said, right? Like, and which name did they mention? Everyone said Bones.
I think Bones is a great answer. I think Jamal's a great answer. I'm going to go Jeff and DeAndre just to give a different answer. I think one of those two answers is probably right. Maybe both of them. But Jeff and DeAndre, to me, the highest from expectation to what we actually got today. They were fantastic, set a great mood, warmed and lightened up the mood. I will say, I thought this was a great media day. You can always tell the vibe around a team early on. You just get a sense of it. Harrison and I are going to be out in San Diego. We're going to really get a sense now when it turns to seriousness. Now when it gets to business, we're going to, we'll be covering all of that. We should have some great interviews from behind the scenes as the Nuggets go into this. But I thought as far as day one goes, this one to me gets an A+. 10 out of 10. Yeah. Felt great to be back, and I think it felt great for those guys to be back.
Listen, man, it's just media day, but you can fail media day. Go ahead and Google Boston Celtics.
Yeah, but Google them. No, they're not even the biggest failures. The biggest failures have got to be the Phoenix Suns, who don't have a player. They had a player that spent the weekend making a mixtape and not getting ready to go to camp. Actually, it's a trade demand mixtape. It's the first of its kind.
Yeah,
a brand new genre of mixtape. Bossman 99, aka AJ Crowder, is
the first of its kind.
The first of its kind.
It's a new frontier.
This is a trade me mixtape. It's got quotes in there. It's got I think I had Ray Lewis or somebody behind. It's unbelievable, man. So yes, you can fail media day. The Nuggets did not. They passed it with flying colors. We're out of here, everybody. Thanks so much. Hit that like button on the way out and join us every single day this week as we're bringing you live reports from training camp. See you then.